See that stool? Let's sit on it. So one important thing when you're building a vehicle, especially, a guy in my position, when you're figuring things out, some of them for the first time, because any major modification to a vehicle, you're a bit of, an innovator. You've got to be able to adapt things to make them work. And so one thing I've found is that it really helps to have a vehicle that you just kind of like looking at, because a certain amount of time, in some cases a depressing amount of time, you're going to spend just sitting and looking at and thinking about your next step or steps on a project. And so it's good that I really like looking at this truck. In fact, the more I look at it, the more I like it. And that's kind of probably the saving grace on a project, because if it was something that I just wanted to get done and get through and get, on to the next thing, this is pretty well the point where this would get tucked away somewhere and left for who knows how long. And this has been an issue for me personally, and I know it's an issue for lots of people who start out on a journey to, restore or build or what have you, a vehicle. Because, and I'm not talking about the guys who've built lots, and know how to do every last thing themselves and just churn them out. And, those guys, they've solved all the problems. So they know how to do what they're doing. Because that's the things that get put off. I say this at work all the time too. The things that get left there's two things. One are the ones you don't want to do, and which we all have things we don't really love doing, right? And the other ones are the ones you don't know how to do, which in the case of this, that's more there's no processes here that I don't enjoy. So like even this wiring that's still not done and not done properly, it's not that I hate doing it. It's more I don't know exactly how to do it. So everything that's been put off, it's those two reasons generally. I have accomplished a little bit. My radiator is in. My fans are on the radiator. And it was, I clearanced this particular one. It's just your standard eBay. I don't recall the exact one, but I think it comes up as a Corvette radiator possibly, but it also lists it for LS swaps into S10s. And it fits. I did have to do I had to kind of beat a hole in a couple of spots on the lower end of it. It didn't clearance top to bottom quite. I had to do a bit of chipping away, but that meant that to retain it, all I have is this one strip across the top because it's got nowhere else to go. And my only concern is that with vibration and just it actually fits a little bit snug. So I'm hoping that when it heats up, obviously that aluminum is going to stretch out more than the steel, so there might be a bit of pressure. I don't know, we'll see. That's not a problem for today. But it's in, and I'm at exhaust now. I've kind of, one of the things in terms of this engine not running right, I know that some people have had really finicky situations when trying to run an engine on open headers. Whatever. I'm going to get my exhaust all done before I track down the problem with the engine running. So in terms of the radiator, this is part of this stand around and look thing. I was I was going to move my battery to the other side and bring my intake air here. And I've messed with that back and forth, and now trying to fit rad hose. I've put the battery tray back in. I'm going to leave the battery here and just figure out a way wherever it ends up going, it goes in terms of my intake air. Again, we'll address that later, down from the road. Steering shaft. I do at some point need to order get rid of these rag joints and order a steering shaft with U-joints because, I'll see if I can get you in here, it runs right beside the header. I had to dent that runner, the first two runners actually, I had to clearance, which it's a bit of a hack job. Ideally you would route a steering shaft around a custom shaft or something to this effect, but whatever, I'm not worried about it. But yeah, those rag joints sitting beside a header are not ideal in terms of safety. So that's on the list. That's on the long-term list. But yeah, in some ways this has kind of stalled out. You can joke about the 90, there's that saying 90% done, 90% to go. And that's exactly where I'm at. I'm just tidying up all the little odds and ends. And there's lots of those. But, and once I get this truck driving, I know there's going to be drivability things. All I did with the brakes is I put pads on the front. I haven't even pulled the back brakes apart. But, getting the emergency brake freed up and getting everything, new fluid and all, the truck has been sitting so long that all the systems have to be gone through. So it's not just getting it running and driving, it's also all the regular vehicle maintenance just from a vehicle sitting so long. But, one thing at a time. The weather stripping is all shrunken and sagging. So, I mean, this isn't a get it done driving finished. It's never going to be totally finished. Oh, one cool thing I was going to just show you guys. One of the tuning issues with this Gen 4 is that I have no VSS signal coming from my transmission. Well, I have nothing coming from my transmission because it's gone, but a VSS signal for the ECM, I'm hoping that this is going to be my solution. So this is Dakota Digital, and I actually they're a very well-known company when it comes to dash stuff and gauges and all that stuff. They make repop panels for all kinds of things. But I emailed them basically saying what I needed, which is I need a way to have this Muncie 4-speed create a VSS signal for my ECM, but I was hoping that I could send a signal to the factory speedometer, which is electric in this truck. And within a day, I had an email back, and he said, this should set you up. And he suggested these two parts, and so I was just going to show them to you. The first is this, it's a pulse generator, and it just goes on the regular bullet that would go into any turbo 350, 400, Muncie standard, GM, only about 85 million GM transmissions that fits in. With your little plastic wheel. In this case, it's not going to matter. Normally, you would change the combination of the two plastic gears in terms of getting your gear ratio to get your speedometer to read correctly with the cable. In this case, it's just generating a pulse, and then is the magic box. And so this is the one that he suggested. And basically what this is going to do for me on the speed, this does many different things, but for me, my speed input, this is my pulse generator, is going to go in here, and then it has up to 5 outputs, and you can go in with an app and adjust what those are. And so, you know, I don't know. I have to research that, but how many pulses per mile is the speedo supposed to be and the ECM supposed to be? And some are, there's different waves and all. It's stuff I'm still learning about. But anyways, that, I think, it's for sure going to make my speedometer work, but I'm hoping it also will create a VSS signal that my ECM can read. The other thing I've pretty well finished, and I've got some clips I'll show you about this, but so a little bit more detail on the muffler. I've got my side pieces welded in place. Now I'm working on the end caps. So I'm simply making them out of the same sheet metal as the sides. And what I've done is, with a hole saw, I drilled the holes where the pipes are going to go before I weld them on, just so I don't, if I have a problem drilling a hole, then anyway. So I've drilled all 4 holes. Now I am about to start welding on one end cap. So my plan here is just to weld it on this way and then grind the excess off. And it'll end up with a bit of a lumpy edge. It won't be a real clean, but this will give me a much easier weld. So that's why I'm doing it this way. We'll see how it turns out. And here it is, with the end caps on. Just need the pipes, and it's pretty well done. And so I'm just still debating, another one of those sit on the chair and think things. I've had a lot of pickups with exhaust out the side. Now there's not a lot of real estate here for that, and it would have to hang down under the spring, which is not ideal. So I had sort of thought already, I'll just send it out the back. I should probably let my door down here. It's starting to storm. One thing about a big bifold door, you don't really want the wind to get a hold of it. It's just a big kite on the end of your... Oh, come on there, buddy. This switch is and then we got to sit on it. All that is just a 12-volt winch that I converted to a gear drive. And now I'll show you how my latch works. There you get a little impromptu inside door action here. I made this bifold door when I built the shop. And so it lifts using these truck straps, and there's just a shaft along this bottom brace with that winch motor, 12-volt winch motor. So now to latch the door, pull it all the way closed. I'll get you on. I just have this cable on each side, and I forged these hooks. Oh, the light is messing with me there. These hooks here that grab the door frame. So you just loop the cable on each one. Go do the other side. It's starting to rain. That's good. Actually, we need that. Oh, come on now. All right, so both sides are hooked, and now I just have this old hand winch here in the middle, and this pulley pulls down on the And that's the door secured. And if I did it just right, oh, they're a little loose, but a little bit of tension on those straps holds the door very sturdy in terms of strength, you know, so that the middle wouldn't ever bow in on a big wind. I've got a counterweight up there, a bunch of tractor weights, and that goes up in the attic and over, and come on, just down here in the middle, just a more aircraft cable, and that just takes the load off the winch as far as up and down. So yeah, that's a home-built door, 24 by 14. I have an affinity for home-built aircraft, and so that's why I built, well, that's one of the reasons. This, basically, I wanted to be able to pull anything in this shop that will fit in this shop. So I didn't want an overhead door, because this door I can lift right to 14 feet. And so, yeah, anyway, that's a little diversion there in terms of the shop. But back to the stool. Just looking at this truck, you know, for a lot of time. Trying to figure out where to go, what to do. And it's so few things left. I'm down to the nitty gritty, the last little bit. The exhaust is well underway, but still lots to go. And that's, you know, I've decided to make it myself. So it's going to be cheap, but it's going to take a while because I'm not, as if you've paid attention, you realize I'm not a master fabricator at this point. But that's part of it, is learning some skills. So yeah, this is that point we're at where it languishes a little, but I have managed to just chip away, because that's the key I have learned with my jumping around from thing to thing. I have varied interests, and this is only one of them. And so there's times of my life where I've gotten off on a tangent and not looked at something for a couple years, and then I get back at it and I'm all back at it. That's kind of just how I've learned to just kind of run with that. But I have gotten better. That Honda CRX, I have one video on my channel of a Honda CRX that I swapped an Integra engine into, and that kind of got me, I think I call it the gateway drug or something, that video. And that it was a little bit that way, because it kind of made me think, you know what, I can do this stuff. It's a journey, all of it, and it doesn't always end as soon as you might like, but I have a feeling I will get to the end of this one. So that's kind of cool, because in my life that hasn't always been the case. You see so many projects for sale, and they're almost always almost done. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're always apart to a certain extent. Some people just blow everything completely apart, and then it gets sold in that way. But then there's these, right? You get to that the last few hurdles, and it's not going to be done in the time you thought it would, and so you kind of just abandon the whole thing for a while, or indefinitely, or forever. So that's not happening here. I am working at it, and you know what? If it's not running this year, it'll be running next year. So that's what I said last year, but this year I think we're getting there. So, and you know what? I really like just sitting here looking at it, because it looks so cool. So you might not think so, but I do, so that's all that matters. Have a good Sunday. Hope everyone's well. Thanks for watching.